us. He says, Christ sleeps in the deepest selves of all of us. In whatever way we can call on him, as the fishermen did in their boat, to come awake within us and to give us courage, to give us hope, to show us each one our way. May he be with us especially when the winds go mad and the waves run wild, as they will for all of us before we're done, so that even in the middle of the storm, we may find peace. And that is, I think, true. When we seek for God, we find that God is there, right there in the boat, in the valley, in the storm. I also came across a wonderful reference to what was originally a newspaper column in the Cleveland Plain Dealer by a columnist named Regina Brett. She has since kind of compiled what was originally 40 life lessons compiled on her 40th birthday. Subsequent to her 40th birthday, she also was diagnosed with breast cancer, and at 50, she decided to add 10 more lessons. And so she's compiled 50 life lessons, and the book is subtitled 50 Lessons for Life's Little Detours. Some of the lessons are incredibly wise and quite simple. Things like pay off your credit cards every month and start saving for your retirement with your first paycheck. But also other things. No one is in charge of your happiness except you. It's never too late to have a happy childhood, but the second one is up to you and no one else. Time heals everything. Give time time. You don't have to win every argument. Agree to disagree. But there's some that I found particularly profound and I think meaningful in the context of the message this morning. She begins her lessons with, life isn't fair, but it's still good. No one asks for the storms that come our way. But she also wrote this: if we all threw our problems in a pile and saw everyone else's, we'd grab ours back. And in her little book, she writes, someone once said that God comes to us disguised in our life, in the mess of that life, in the problems and flaws we'd like to wish away and pray away. Taped to my daily planner, she wrote, is a quote from Thomas Merton, Trappist monk, poet, and social activist, who reminds me that I was formed perfectly with all my imperfections. I must give to God what God cannot receive from anyone else, the gift of me. Yes, if we all throw our problems in a pile, she writes, I'd take mine back, not because they are easier, but because they are mine. And she also advises, don't compare your life to others. You have no idea what their journey is all about. And I think there is some very deep, profound truth. We know about others, what they have opened up and shared with us, but that is such a tiny piece of the journey and life that is theirs. It doesn't matter what has happened to you, she writes, it matters what you do with what has happened to you. Life is like a poker game, and I guess it's okay in a congregational church to mention poker. You don't get to choose the cards you are dealt, but it's entirely up to you how to play the hand. there are many others. One's about choosing life, always choosing life, looking ahead, not being so caught up with worrying about today that we don't look around us and see the miracles about us, see the things for which we can be thankful, keep going even when it seems like we'd rather go somewhere else on some other journey, or maybe find some safe shelter or harbor closer at hand. And then one of her lessons, she says, whatever doesn't kill you really does make you stronger. I've often wondered about that. You know, it's like that one that says, you know, God never gives you more than you can handle. And I know there are days when the load's pretty heavy and it seems more than one can handle. But out of her own experience, out of her own journey, she tells this wisdom, I think. She said, our job as survivors of whatever that storm in life may be, of disease or divorce or grief or despair, our job is to bear witness, to carry the torch of hope for all who journey through the valley and out again. It is up to us, to those of us who get to see the view beyond the valley, to share it. Life from a survivor's point of view looks pretty good every day. I think I share that sentiment. Life from this side of the valley, this day, looks pretty good. But our task is obviously to be that kind of witness, to share that kind of faith with one another in ways that hold us all up in this storm-tossed boat we call life. In the midst of the lessons is another one that I want to share with you. If I can find where oh yeah. Everything can change in the blink of an eye, but don't worry, God never blinks. That was what she chose to title that book that was subtitled 50 Lessons for Life's Detours. God never blinks. That reassurance, just as Frederick Buechner said, that Christ, God is there in the boat with us, in the deepest part of ourselves, accessible to us when we reach out to call upon God's presence and to ask for God to still the storm and calm us in the midst of it. That is, I think, the message of the gospel. And in some ways, it is also the message of the Hebrew scriptures of David and Goliath. That God is there even in the most lopsided-looking battle. And that God never blinks. Thanks be to God. The author of that book also mentions that life is a gift, and that we are called to share the gifts of our life in ways that enhance God's ministry in our midst, God's care for us with one another. We are in this church blessed in so many ways to have the gifts of so many of our church members, but also of our music staff. And today is a very special day. The bulletin